Welcome back to another episode of Light Beer, Dark Money. I'm Sean Noble.
I'm Chris Clements.
And I have a confession.
Oh, my goodness. A confession.
A confession. I was a little late today.
Oh.
And the reason... So I've, for whatever reason, decided to listen to music when I'm driving in the car rather than books or podcasts. Yeah. For the last week or so, I've just been all in on music.
What type of music?
Well, I listen to all kinds of music, but I happen to find on my Apple app the music that you can go back and look at, like your most listened to of 2016, 2017.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
I didn't even know that existed. So I was way back.
How way back?
I was way back to 17.
Way back to 17.
Yeah, which doesn't seem that long ago, but it was 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. And what I was listening to in 17 was really something that was even further back. Because I was a show choir nerd in high school, I loved the TV show Glee. Glee. And
really?
At least the first 3 or 4 seasons.
Well, that's interesting.
So, and I loved listening to the covers that they would do of various songs. And I was listening in the car on the way over here to some Glee, little Journey. And then REO Speedwagon, Can't Fight This Feeling came on. And I didn't want to stop. So I circled the block.
Really?
So I could hear the whole song. And I was late to hear.
What song was that?
I Can't Fight This Feeling by REO Speedwagon.
With Kevin Cronin and the whole band.
Well, but it was the Glee cast.
Yes. Okay.
So that's why I was late.
I can honestly say I've never watched Glee.
Yeah, I'm sure you haven't.
Yeah. It wasn't a thing. It wasn't a thing in our house. American Idol was a thing.
Yeah.
That was a big thing.
I love music.
Yeah.
I wish I was a better musician than I am.
Who's your favorite band? Do I know this?
Oh, I mean, it's toss-up, right? Between REM and U2.
Between REM and U2?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great toss-up.
Yeah.
That's a great toss-up.
Can't.
What's your favorite REM album?
I mean, probably. I mean, you know, if I was going back to the stuff that I listened to the most, it's probably Green.
Okay.
I do like some of their, the Fables of the Reconstruction and Murmur.
Yeah.
That stuff grows on you because that's the original stuff. But they had some, just like U2. It's hard to like U2. My favorite album for U2 is Rattle and Hum because there's live versions and it's basically the Joshua Tree. Yeah, it's a Joshua Tree but live.
Yeah, that's a different choice. A lot of people would not pick that
because it's the only album in which Van Diemen's Land.
Well, and it's sung by The Edge.
Yeah. And I love that song. I can play that song on the guitar.
You can?
It's one of the very few songs I can play on the guitar.
Oh, that's fantastic. See, I did not know that about you.
Well, like I said, I wish I was a better musician than I am. I'm not great.
REM is definitely in my top 5. Automatic for the People. That's my album. That and Life's Rich Pageant.
Life's Rich Pageant, very good.
Two of my favorite. Yeah. I used to, in my dorm room at USC, I used to go around singing, I am Super Clem, and I can do anything.
That's good.
And then, U2 is the Unforgettable Fire. That's my desert island album. I can listen to it anytime. Okay. Because to me, that album really solidified their sound. That was the album with Brian Eno and Daniel Lanois producing. They became U2.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, music's...
It's such an important part of life.
Nobody can live without music, but I am a music junkie and I love all music. I was, we were away last week and I just got into this country kick.
Really?
Yeah.
See, that's something I've never really...
Like country, almost like country yacht rock. Like Toby Keith and Kenny Chesney and...
Okay.
And
some of those stuff is...
And Jimmy decent. Buffett and Zach Bryan and Zach, all those kind of, beachy bands.
Yeah.
But I love Sammy Hagar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got to meet him this last year and actually got to pray with he and his crew before the show.
Is that right?
Yeah, it was really cool.
No kidding.
Yeah. Michael Anthony.
Man,
They're both short.
Is that right?
All those guys are short.
I'll tell you, some good Van Halen's not bad.
Are you David Lee, or are you?
I'm
kind of all.
I could go. Yeah,
I'm all of it.
It really comes down to Eddie, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm Eddie. Yeah, exactly. Just comes down to Eddie, and now that Eddie's gone, it's just no big deal. Yeah. So when Sammy was here with Joe Satriani and Michael Anthony and Jason Bonham, I got to go backstage with our friend Mark Tarbell.
That's
because
awesome.
Mark caters for them when they come to town.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
And so he invited me to come with him as
nice
they
of
were
him.
preparing the meal, and got to meet Sammy. And I had met him once before a long time ago. And but you know who was the nicest of the bunch?
Who?
Joe Satriani.
Really?
Just the nicest, sweetest guy. We had a great discussion about guitars and just about guitarists and everything. You know, tours and touring and how hard it is and how much different it is and how he had to learn all these songs and how he considers Eddie Van Halen the greatest guitarist ever.
I mean,
coming from Joe Satriani.
Yeah, that's actually meaningful.
Yeah,
because
it's tremendous.
You know, I have gone back and forth. I believe that Eddie Van Halen is probably. I mean, he's clearly, if he's not the best, he's at the very pinnacle.
Yeah,
but you have to put Prince there.
Okay, yeah, I think.
I mean, that guy could make sounds with that guitar and the Edge is an amazing guitarist.
I like guitarists who have a distinct sound that's all their own.
Yeah.
So the Edge obviously has influence probably between modern rock and even worship music, and I mean has influenced probably more guitarists over the last 20, 30 years than many. And then you've got Eddie Van Halen. Definitely, whenever you heard a Van Halen song, you could definitely see David Gilmour of Pink Floyd.
Yeah,
that tone, you know exactly who that is.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And then Alex Lifeson, I think, is probably the most underrated guitarist in rock from Rush.
Yeah, he's good.
But he was eclipsed by the two greatest
right.
musicians in rock, arguably. You know, in terms of the bass and the drums.
You know who else is a really good guitarist? Is John Mayer.
Yes, he is.
I mean, watching him live, it's like you really get a sense of like that dude can play.
Yes. I've never seen him live, but I have read articles and seen where he's very well respected for his guitar playing.
I mean,
and he like idolizes everyone that we're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, he's humble. Yeah, I think he's humble about it.
Yeah,
because he's very, very good. But yeah, that's a gift. Wish I could do that.
Nah,
but the amount of time
I do it in the car. I think I'm doing it. You know when you know the chimes.
My air guitar is the best air guitar you've ever heard.
My air drumming is really, really good these days.
Right up there with Neil Peart, right?
Oh my gosh! You know, was there anybody greater? No. No, that was the day the music died. 2020 was really the worst year ever in the history of the world, and it began on January 10th when it was announced that Neil Peart had passed away. Actually, 3 days earlier.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a joke. Like of brain cancer of all things.
Right.
The most intricate, dynamic, complex drummer in the history of music. History.
Yeah.
Go back, whatever. Dies of brain cancer.
I miss what Robin said.
Oh yeah.
Great
well, I mean,
songwriter.
a great lyricist, a humble guy. Like didn't want the spotlight. Wrote Limelight because he wanted to, talk about how hard it was being famous.
Yeah.
And how everybody wanted a piece of his time, and yet he dies of brain cancer. I mean, the cruelness of fate.
Yeah. You know, I love watching documentaries on. Because I've just finished a number of books on. I read the REM. This is REM.
I'm listening to that right now.
I listened to the book.
Peter Buck. I mean,
yeah, great,
incredible guitarist. Just from a minimalist perspective,
right? Because he wasn't a trained guitarist.
No,
I mean he taught himself.
Yeah, he taught himself, and he taught it. And so that jangly sort of rock that he invented.
Yeah.
Right. Those are the bands that I love. They invent a sound, it's all their own. And if somebody tries to imitate it, they're like, you immediately say, oh, well, that's kind of like Peter Buck, or that's like David Gilmour, or you're trying to imitate Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah.
You know, or Jimmy Page, you know,
Right.
obviously.
Hendrix, you know, it's
Townsend. You can just go down
the list.
up and down, up and down,
But
up and down.
I did the REM book, then listened to Brian Wilson, the book about the Beach Boys and Brian Wilson. Listened to a book about Warner Records, you know, Warner Brothers Records history. I mean, I for whatever reason got on this kick of, and then starting to watch documentaries on these various things. I'm one of a fun documentary just because you just see so many superstars is the documentary about the night that they recorded "We Are the World."
Oh, okay, yeah.
And who showed up and who didn't. And
Okay.
like, they, you know, different people got a invitation by mail, and some people thought it was a joke, and other people were like, wait, that's going on, that's happening, yeah, I want to be a part of that. And then others that didn't show up. And I mean, it's worth watching.
It's so funny because at that stage of life, I was not into any of those artists. Maybe Steve Perry.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of We Are the World. I wasn't into any of them. And so I thought that, Do They Know It's Christmas? Those were all the bands that I was listening to back then.
Yeah. No, We Are the World, because I mean, to watch, because they have a lot of actual footage of that night.
Yeah.
And it is amazing to watch these people. I mean, at one point, Stevie Wonder's just like, look, guys, this is why we're doing this.
Yeah.
And it just kind of like.
Because that was a Quincy Jones,
Yeah.
Michael Jackson.
Quincy put it together,
Yeah.
and Michael, and who's the other person? Lionel Richie was part
Lionel
of it.
Richie was part of it.
Writing it.
Writing it. I remember Huey Lewis was a part of that too. And
Yeah.
Actually, I liked Huey Lewis back then.
Yeah. Yeah. Springsteen was there.
Springsteen was there. Well, I did like Springsteen, so there's
I mean,
a couple.
it was Hall & Oates. I mean,
Yeah, I was not into Hall & Oates. Although now I have a greater appreciation for Daryl Hall. Have you watched Daryl's Place?
No.
So he has these artists come in.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
He has it's on YouTube, and he has these. I think it was on network too. And he has these artists come in. You know, he's had Tommy Shaw. He's had all these different folks come in. And they play their songs, just
Jam.
and just jam and in his studio at home, and his voice, I and his playing, I've gained a greater appreciation for as I've gotten older.
Good.
You know, Hall & Oates and what they were actually in the 70s, which I found, and then they got all poppy in the 80s. But
Right.
you know, he's a man. You know, that stuff I wasn't into, but some of the more soulful stuff that they did
Early.
Yeah. And then, and he did a background vocal for INXS on
Is
the
that
song
right?
"Original Sin." Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that.
Wow. Huh.
Little trivia there. Another great band.
Yeah.
Loved INXS.
INXS.
Michael Hutchins, God rest his soul.
You know, the 80s were pretty good.
80s music was great.
Some great bands, some great genres.
I saw a lot of concerts in the 80s that just it ran the gamut.
Yeah.
I saw Huey Lewis in the news at McHale, back when McHale and the old Wells Fargo Center used to have concerts here in ASU. That between, you know, there was this student group, ASU UA. They would bring in all these great shows. So my first show I ever saw, like independently of my parents, was REO Speedwagon.
Is that right?
Yeah, I mean the original REO Speedwagon with Gary Richrath on guitar and Kevin Cronin on the big piano, and it was amazing. So it was for my 10th birthday.
This is my first concert. I was older than 10. My first concert was Echo and the Bunnymen.
Oh, that must have been great.
Mesa Amphitheater. It was epic for me because I was 16 years old and it was my first concert, and it was just like, oh my gosh.
So my first concert ever was Linda Ronstadt at McHale back in the like 78, maybe 80. And she came, this is when Linda Ronstadt was
like a big deal.
Cute.
Yeah.
And she came out in these little short shorts and a U of A jersey. And I was on the floor with my mom. She took me to my first concert. So Jenny Clements, you get all the props on that one.
That's funny.
And then I became hooked just to going to shows and
Yeah.
wherever I could. I think we camped out for Huey Lewis. Oh, and then one of the biggest fights I ever had with my mom actually about a show was we got tickets to see Ozzy Osbourne and Motley Crue, my buddy and I. Buddy Billy Campbell and I got, and my mom was losing her noodle, and my dad stepped in and goes, I'm going to take them. I'm just going to wait outside, and if it's too much, they'll come back. We stayed the whole show.
Of course.
And Motley Crue was great. This is back, Shout Out the Devil,
Yeah.
their first album, and I was kind of into Ozzy, but not really. And she's like, he's going to bite the head off of bats and do all this crazy stuff. And he was great.
Yeah.
And what was great about what I remember about Ozzy is he had this drummer, Carmine Appice, and he was tremendous. He did an amazing drum solo.
That's cool.
And he and Tommy Lee both. And that was before Tommy Lee was a thing.
It was a thing, right?
Yeah.
That's my biggest regret on concerts was I had tickets to U2 at Sun Devil Stadium. This would have been 87.
December of 87.
December of 87.
I was there.
I had tickets.
Day two.
I did not go because I heard that some of the proceeds were going to go to the recall campaign.
The recall Evan Needham campaign. And he definitely talked about it. I remember it.
I on principle, I boycotted.
You dummy.
And at the end of, it wasn't 3 weeks later. I was like, that was so stupid. What the heck was I thinking?
You know what? The thing about us conservatives is that we have to endure artists that are decidedly liberal.
Yeah.
And guess what? We're okay with it.
Right.
We know it going in. Like REM was not a
well, I made up.
Band.
I made up for
you too.
I made up for that when I went to San Jose with my brother Brett, and we watched the Joshua Tree 30th anniversary tour.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Gosh, that was so good.
So I got to see that show 3 times. Yeah, 3 times. I went to the Rose Bowl, which was tremendous.
I'm sure.
Here, which was like watching it in a tin can. The Cardinal Stadium for shows is just the worst, unless they open up the roof.
Yeah.
And then Soldier Field.
Oh,
Sasha
nice.
and I went to the show at Soldier Field. We had a blast. It was great.
Yeah. Yeah, we went up to San Jose or Santa Clarita, I guess, where the Giants or the 49ers play.
That was a nice nostalgia tour. Their opening act was the Lumineers. Had never seen them before. I love the Lumineers now. Going back to the original Joshua Tree tour and even the Unforgettable Fire tour, there was a little band from California that opened up for them called Lone Justice with a singer named Maria McKee who would like bounce around that stage, and they were like a country rock band, and they were amazing. And I became a huge fan of theirs. I got to meet Maria in Dublin years ago. She was playing at the Wayland's Pub when I went to Dublin to see U2, of course. At Croke Park during the Vertigo tour. Saw that she was playing, went down there, had these balcony seats, tremendous show, just her behind a piano. And then I stuck around and hung out with she and the band afterwards.
Yeah. You know one of the best shows I've seen ever?
What?
Was it was Convention 2004. So it was the Republican Convention in New York, and it was at the church, and it was Kid Rock.
Oh, yeah.
And it was freaking amazing.
I hear he's amazing. I've not seen him.
He's gotten older. We're all a little older now. But,
of course.
But he played. It's a fairly small venue. It holds a couple thousand people at tops. And he played for at least 3 hours.
Did he really?
He just went on and on and on. And it was, he wrote a song with lyrics specific to Hill staffers. It was the most amazing thing. The place just went crazy because it was, when you go to conventions, you've got just tons of Hill staff. It's all the staff of the Republican members that are up there, and it was just one of the best shows I've ever been.
So, Anheuser-Busch, when we would go to conventions, for a string there had some amazing acts. So Dave Matthews, I don't know how many times. Elton John a bunch. Jimmy Buffett, had never seen him until then. A bunch of great bands. Yeah, that they would have to close out the convention.
It's crazy that conventions have some great shows because they've got these parties that these organizations or people put on that are like big deals, and
and they pay them.
That's where I saw Leonard Skinner. Yeah, I've seen Leonard Skinner twice, both at a Republican convention.
And they pay them, and it's a good gig, and everyone's into it.
Yeah.
Did you ever see Rush when they were doing their?
I never saw Rush. No.
Yeah. So they started doing their 3-hour extravaganza tours back in 1997 during that was the Test for Echo tour, and they continued that on, and it was something else because it was you had to be a real fan because you had to commit to 3 hours of that. And I saw them during that time, gosh, maybe 30 times.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
I just had this feeling that it was ending. And so I went through a stage where during Vapor Trails and their R30 tour where I just went.
It's everything.
Yeah, I saw it. And they would do two rounds. And so I just went, I think probably 1 year I saw them 8 times.
Wow. This is much closer to home, another fantastic experience. And I saw them 3 or 4 times, was back when it was the Refreshments.
Oh,
Roger Klein.
Oh, yeah,
and the Peacemakers.
Yeah,
and whatever it is now. Just love their music. He's a great performer. I wish that he would have gotten bigger.
Yeah, all those bands that kind of originated here in Tempe and Tucson.
I guess
Sidewinders.
Yeah,
the Pistoleros.
Yeah,
Scotty Andrews and the Pistoleros.
What was it? Something hot. Dead Hot Workshop.
What is it, Robin?
Yeah,
Dead Hot Workshop. Yeah.
See, she knows.
And,
she knows all that. We're taking her down memory lane.
Jim Blossoms was kind of the biggest to come out.
Yeah, they were.
Right?
They had the most sales for sure.
Right out of Tempe.
Yeah, but you know who's
Etzel's Attic.
Yes,
that's a going way back, isn't it?
Gibson's. Johnny Langbine.
Oh my gosh, how did we get on this topic?
I don't know. Johnny Langbine, shout out to you and Gibson's. A lot of time spent there with when I didn't even know him.
Because of music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how we got there. That is great.
Music is the great.
You know what's great is
the great.
So
unifier.
Spotify will do these daily mixes for me for whatever reason, and
just for you.
Well, I mean, I've got these. Yes, just for me.
Right.
Based on what I'm listening to right now, there's like a country mix, a classic rock mix, an Irish mix.
Well, is it classic rock like the classic rock we believe, or what they consider classic rock?
No, it's
now,
like what we believe. It's like REO Speedwagon, Journey, Rush.
Yeah, but that's not classic rock.
Led Zeppelin.
That's rock. That was our rock. The classic rock was the '60s stuff.
Nah,
right?
that's oldies.
'60s and '70s.
That's oldies.
It's so weird to now be far removed.
But then I was listening to this one mix. It was all new wave. It was all the stuff you were talking about, like Echo and the Bunnymen and Duran Duran and The Cure and Yazoo and all that stuff. And
Erasure.
I loved all of it.
Erasure was great.
Yeah, Erasure, Depeche Mode, all that stuff. I love that stuff. And my kids do not like it. But then there's like newer stuff that's more, I guess, Christian oriented that I listen to, like Need to Breathe and Switchfoot. And he was a big Switchfoot fan. This is a great segue.
Okay.
Andy Biggs.
Is that right?
Yeah. When he was here on the show last time, because he plays the bass.
Yeah. He plays guitar. Yeah.
Yeah, guitar and bass. And we somehow bonded over, because on my other computer, there's a sticker on there that says Switchfoot. He's like, "You're into Switchfoot?" I go, "I'm really into Switchfoot." I'm not only into it, I'm really into Switchfoot. Those are those bands that are kind of like U2 in that regard. They're Christian, but they don't like wear it all over their sleeve. They get played, but then they're played in rock,
I'm just mainstream.
On mainstream and everything else.
Yeah. Well, that is a good segue. Andy Biggs running for governor.
Yeah.
And got a big endorsement this
He
week.
did get a big endorsement this week. Wonder why.
Well, so, okay, I'm going to go full disclosure because I am helping Andy Biggs.
And I'm going full disclosure. I'm helping no one.
You're staying neutral.
I am helping no one. Both have asked for my help, and I'm staying neutral.
So for anyone who's not paying attention to Arizona politics, it's Karin Taylor Robson is running for governor, and she got in back. I don't remember when she announced, but back in December, Trump was here for a Turning Point event.
Yeah,
and was asked to endorse Robson, and he said nice things about her on the stage. And then everyone just said, "Oh, well, he endorsed Robson." And then Andy Biggs decided he was going to run.
Well, she announced, and part of her announcement was Trump endorsed. She put it everywhere.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean,
it was all part of the announcement. It was all on her graphics. It was everywhere.
Everything she's done in the campaign has been prefaced with Trump endorsed.
Yeah, completely.
Which good, I would have too if it was me. But then Andy Biggs gets in, and Congressman has a very close relationship with the president. They both got elected to the federal office the same year, 2016. And Biggs has been obviously one of Trump's strongest supporters in the House. And, like I said, they have a personal relationship. And so on Monday, the president put on Truth Social, when Karin Taylor asked me to endorse her, I thought that great. She'd be great. And then unexpectedly, Andy Biggs announced for governor, and that put me that made it put me in a tough spot. And I endorse both. They're both great. Full support.
Throated endorsement.
So so he endorsed both, and that was something that I had expected would happen. That the co-endorsement thing is something that Trump has done here in Arizona and in other places.
Well, Trump doesn't want to be associated with a losing campaign either. And so there are some things that happened over the last several weeks that you were intimately involved in.
Well,
that kind of got everyone's attention because nobody was expecting the dramatic breadth of distance between the two candidates.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. That when Andy announced it, the grassroots went nuts. They were just on fire because they love him. And a number of polls have been done over the last few, since January.
Yeah, they're not outliers. February.
Yeah, there's literally
one. If there was one, you would think, "Oh, this is an outlier," but there have been successes
because these are huge numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, he is leading her in some polls by 40 points.
Yeah, this is not.
But the average is in the high 30s, which is astounding, because she spent close to $20 million 3 years ago.
Yeah,
communicating with Republican primary voters to vote for her for governor when she was running against Kari Lake. And here we are 3 years later, and she can't break 20%.
Yeah.
And she's in the teens.
Yeah.
All the polls I've seen on the primary election, she is between 12 and 16.
Yeah,
and he's 40, 50, 60.
And then he's polling well against the current governor.
And he's polling better against the current governor than Robson.
Several points below.
Which is
bizarre.
A lot of people thought, well, Karin, might be losing in the primary, but she'd be a better general election candidate. But that's not borne out in the polling.
Yeah,
it's been Biggs who's got.
So do you think it's too early to tell, or is the breadth that dramatic that, hey, this is red alert time for her?
Well, I think it's definitely red alert time for her, because if it was going to
How is she spinning it?
Well, she's
not.
She said, happy to have your endorsement.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, yeah, you've been talking about it for months. I mean,
no, but how's she spinning the polling?
Oh, they
haven't said anything that I've seen. Because I wonder if you've seen.
I mean, I know that they've done polling, but they haven't released anything.
Yeah.
So they're probably seeing similar numbers,
if not worse. Sometimes your internals.
I mean, so if they had anything that showed anything different, it would be out.
Yeah,
but it's not out. So, it in my opinion, and like I said, obviously I'm biased because I'm supporting Biggs and working with him. The challenge for her is that without having the sole endorsement of the president, she has a real problem because the MAGA base doesn't like her.
Yeah.
And doesn't trust her. And she has done some things that in her career that are not going to play well to base Republicans.
Yeah.
And so, and it'd be one thing if you could say, if the argument you could say, look, I'm the person who can win the general. If the polling showed that she was double digits ahead of Hobbs, or at least doing much better against Hobbs than Biggs, she could make that argument. But she can't. And I think the problem, and I was talking to a reporter yesterday, and this is the way I think this is shaking out. When Kyrsten Sinema was elected, 2012, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Is that when she was elected to the House?
No.
She was elected to the House.
Senate was 16.
16?
Yeah.
Is that right? No, it must have been 18.
Was it 18?
Well, because she would have been up in 22. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, 16. You're right.
16. No, I remember because we were at a dinner and she was calling us both at the same time.
In 16?
Yeah, we were at the Four Seasons in Washington D.C. You, me, Desser.
Oh. And
I look at my phone.
That's right.
I showed her to everybody. I go, look who's calling, and she was on her way to win.
Yeah.
Even then.
So that was a time in which you could either Democrat or Republican. If you could win the primary, you could run to the middle.
Yeah.
And win the general. I think Arizona has become more extreme is the wrong word, but more extreme on the edges. That is, the Republican Party is harder right, the Democrat Party is harder left, and there's less middle, but there's more Republican than Democrat.
Well, and that's coming out, on a weekly basis in terms of the registration.
Yeah, registration numbers continue
through the roof.
Yeah, the Republicans continue to grow the lead above Democrats, continue to grow their lead above independents or other. But my point is that this is a situation where, Arizona is a red state that is masquerading as purple because Kari Lake was a bad candidate 2 cycles in a row and gave us a Democrat governor and a Democrat senator.
Yeah.
And we had, McSally wasn't a phenomenal candidate, obviously. She lost to Sinema and then gets appointed and loses to Kelly, right? So,
yeah, and Sinema turned out to be a better senator than people thought for Arizona.
100%.
Very pro-business.
Saved the country.
Saved the country in terms of the
filibuster,
but also in terms of taxes.
Yeah.
And she became much more consequential. But to your point, she couldn't fill that middle gap.
I mean, she saw
and
it
the left,
before anybody else.
The left took her out.
That's why she didn't run, because she realized there is no middle left.
Yeah.
Or not a big enough middle to make a dent. So that's why the polling shows Biggs doing better than Robson.
Yeah.
Because the base Republican the base of the Republican Party is broader than it used to be. The Democratic Party is narrower, and the middle is narrower.
Yeah, that's a great point.
So, I mean, we have moved this state has moved to the right.
Yeah, and I saw Andy yesterday at this Arizona Chamber of Commerce update from Capitol Hill.
Yes.
Offered our condolences to him on the loss of his daughter, who happened last week. But I didn't see Karin Taylor Robson, and that's would seem to me a natural.
Are you serious?
She was not there, and
wow,
and that would seem to me a natural constituency for her.
She's having a bad week.
Yeah, that would be a natural. That would be where you would want to be gripping and grinning. I did see somebody else there.
Who's that?
Mark Kelly.
Oh,
saw him
really?
in person.
So you actually saw Mark Kelly?
I saw Mark Kelly.
So
I know where he is.
Yesterday you were not able to
Where
say.
is Mark Kelly?
You weren't able to ask the question because you knew.
I knew where he was. And you know what? I think we really need to find somebody to run against him because I really don't think we can do another 6 years of this.
There will be. I mean, he's not up. What? 28?
He's not up for a while.
Is he 28?
Yeah.
Is that when he's up?
But we need to find somebody soon. I mean, here's the guy.
It seems pretty soon.
Here's the guy who's never run a business, never met a payroll, and was kind of like lecturing the hall on economics yesterday, and it didn't go over well.
Really?
I don't think. Yeah.
What is he?
Yeah.
That seems odd.
But my impression of him after that was he was talking about tariffs and China and Taiwan and all the work that they've done, of course, here to bring chips to Arizona. And where have you been? Where is Mark Kelly?
Well,
where have you been
was there
for the
yesterday.
last? Well, but it's really easy to be in the minority and then to try to come out and play like you're really pro-business or pro-immigration when you haven't really done anything over the last several years. And then you had Ruben Gallego. He was on the dais with him, and Ruben just got back from Germany, a little family trip to Germany, and now he thinks he knows everything about German economics.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was kind of lecturing us about German trade.
Well, I will say that members of Congress and senators will go on what they call codels.
Yeah,
and they'll go to different countries or places, and they'll get
like El Salvador, going to El Salvador.
Well, that's a whole different story. We talked about that last episode. It just seems bizarre. I mean, I'm happy that Ruben went to Germany and not El Salvador.
Yeah, that would have been a bad look.
But they do actually learn a lot on those things. I mean, they are briefed by the experts, and so I remember when I was working for Shattuck, he would go. I mean, he went to Alaska, he went to different places, and I mean, he came back with a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, that
really does inform how they do their job. I think they're those types of kind of hands-on learning are important. So
I saw John Shattuck yesterday.
Oh, well, speak of the devil.
He was at our table.
There you go. That's great.
And he said the same thing. These guys don't know what they're talking about. This is embarrassing. But then Andy Biggs was there, and along with Juan Ciscomani.
Okay.
And that Andy was against the tariffs before he was for the tariffs, and now he's for the tariffs.
Well, I kind of feel like my position on tariffs is evolving as I learn more about.
But I think he's for it for the right reasons in terms of gaining. Well, we've talked about this show, and that is gaining viable access for our products in these, and for our goods and services in these countries.
Well, and having having the ability to manufacture things here that are of economic and national security interest.
Yeah,
right.
I saw Juan Ciscomani, and my impression there is that he's been hitting the creatine.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because his suit was very, very tight.
He's working hard?
Yeah. And then Abe Hamadeh was up there.
Oh.
Saying things.
He said things?
He said things.
Okay.
A lot of great Fox sound bites out of Abe Hamadeh. And then lastly, I want to give props to Eli Crane.
Okay.
Eli Crane's a badass.
He is. Isn't he a SEAL?
The guy is a badass. I was skeptical of Eli. I'm going to say it, and I am sorry, Eli. I doubted you. I told him after I got to meet with him just privately, just for a minute, because he was doing interviews and what have you. Mm-hmm. He honestly, when he is asking witnesses questions during hearings, he has some of the best questions for a freshman congressman that are just hard-hitting, to the point. And
really, he's not a freshman anymore, right?
No, he's not. But for a newer congressman, he impressed me the last cycle. He's impressing me now. He's a badass.
Yeah. Well, he came by it honestly.
What?
He came by it honestly.
I mean, he and I told him that he's got my favorite district. I love that district.
It's a great district. My hometown.
And I think what he understands intuitively, and we talked a little bit about this. If you just show up and you're just out there, people love that.
Yeah.
And he was heading up to the White Mountains for something and going to the reservation for something else. I'm like, that's all you have to do.
I mean, it is
show up.
Probably one of the toughest districts in the country.
Oh, completely. I call it unwieldy.
It is unwieldy because to live in the district, you are nowhere near a decent airport.
No.
So to do the trip back and forth to D.C., you have to drive a few hours to get to either Tucson or Phoenix.
Yeah, you really have to have a plan when you land where you're going to go first and what the agenda is to make your time that you're in the district, productive.
Yeah, because it goes from way down. I mean, because Gila County is a part of it, right?
I believe so. I mean,
and all the way
it's
up
Coconino, it's Navajo, Apache, down to.
I mean, you're going from Lake Powell down to Gila County.
Well, and down here to Pinal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
wraps around to Pinal. So it's unwieldy. But having traveled those nooks and crannies for the better part of my 20-something years.
Because a lot of your distributors.
Yeah, so we had territory in Flagstaff and Holbrook and Show Low and all that, Globe. That's all his territory. I know it all. Yeah. And it's unwieldy, but what I learned at that time politically traditionally Democrat, as you grew up in Pinetop Show Low, but conservative Democrat.
Yep. Pinto Democrats.
And Union Democrats. And so if you just show up and you meet with everyone and they know you care and you deliver some wins, you can have that district forever.
Yeah.
And I think he understands that.
Yeah.
So he was great. The event was great. So congratulations and kudos to Danny and his team. It was a great event.
Yeah.
The senators were, I think, the low point.
Was the governor there?
She was not.
Oh, because this is an update from Capitol Hill.
So but a former governor was there, Jan Brewer.
Oh, okay.
She got a shout out.
Good.
Oh, and the Queen was there, Lisa Atkins.
Oh, that's awesome.
Lisa Atkins was there. She sat at our table too. So you missed it.
I did miss it.
You missed it.
Yeah.
I
was on kid duty.
She's the best. Yeah. Where would you and I be without Lisa Atkins?
We wouldn't be sitting here.
We would not be sitting here.
Literally would not be sitting here.
And we would be so much dumber.
Yeah.
Because of that.
Well, and if you have any doubts about the importance of Lisa Atkins, just go back. I don't remember when the episode was. We had her on.
And we were such dorks. We were such
we were fanboying big time.
Well, no, we were 21, 22 years old again.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have gotten my first job at the Leadership Institute if it wasn't for Lisa and Bob Stump. There's no way.
Yeah.
And what I learned there has carried me forward completely.
Yeah. Well, she was a phenomenal example of just a top-rate staff person, just a great human being. And Bob Stump was just a phenomenal example of what a humble public servant
Bob Stump, with God rest his soul, was just a tremendous mentor to me. I can't even imagine my life without Bob Stump and Lisa Atkins.
Well, and I think he mentored not only, that's the great thing. He not only mentored the members of the delegation, because he was the senior member for many years.
Yeah.
But he took the time to mentor staff, which is just astounding when you think about it. Staff that's not his staff.
Yeah, and when you, from the humility standpoint, like his office was the best office of any of the offices in the delegation, but he never used his office. He had a desk in the back with the staff. Mm-hmm. And that is one of the most humbling things I ever...
Opened his own mail, answered
the phones,
It was just classic. I remember, I do remember calling the office once, and this is Bob. I was like, whoa.
Well, they let me use the phones in his office to call back, to call my message machine back in Arlington, in College Park. And Bob would come in with people and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, you're using my office." I'm like, "Yes, I'll leave."
Yeah.
Nah, he was the best.
Yep.
You know who wasn't there yesterday, which I was surprised? David Schweiker.
Oh.
And Schweiker should have been there because I think his perspective on the dais would have been so much more nuanced and so much more realistic than sort of the rosy picture everybody was trying to play when it comes to the budget, when it comes to reconciliation.
Well, nobody understands the challenges of the federal budget more than
David. And he should, I don't know if he had a conflict or whatever, but his insights to that group in terms of owning up to the reality of the situation that our government finds itself in and how to grow out of it, which he understands more than anybody, would have been tremendous.
Yeah.
Well, infomercial for David Schweiker, but when it comes to everybody on the dais, very smart people, but he knows. I mean, he's on Ways and Means. He knows the challenges of getting this reconciliation bill through and how important it is to get it through more than anything.
Just go on YouTube, Google David Schweiker federal budget, and you'll have plenty of videos
to
educate you, and you will become significantly smarter than anybody else you know about the federal budget.
Oh, completely.
So just do that.
And the challenges it's gonna take to pass this thing.
That's right. Well,
we've gone from the governor's race to
delegation. A lot of music. A lot of memory lane.
And we joke about Mark Kelly, and we joke about, but we actually have a really decent delegation.
Yeah.
I mean, overall.
Yeah.
And Ruben, I like Ruben. I give him a hard time. I really do like Ruben. He and I have broken bread many times and had a beer or two.
I say this because when you think about, there are 50 states.
Yeah.
So there are 50 delegations, right?
And they are working hard for the state.
Right. But Arizona has always punched above its weight.
Yeah.
I mean,
Lisa said that on the show.
Yeah. I mean, you go back to Ernest McFarland, who is the Senate president. He's the leader of the Senate Democrats back in the 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
Then Goldwater beats him.
Yeah.
And then Goldwater becomes an icon. And you've got Carl Hayden, who was the godfather. And John Rhodes. I mean, just
Jim Colby,
John
Shattuck,
John
Kyle,
McCain, John Kyle. Lord. I mean, we have always had more influence at the federal level as a small state than we really deserve.
John Kyle, the greatest Arizona senator ever.
You think?
I do.
Yeah, as far as just,
what people don't know, yes,
he did so much behind the scenes that had so much impact on not just stuff in Arizona, but for the whole country.
And maybe the smartest.
Yeah.
And really, that staff was amazing.
Yeah.
They were a well-oiled machine.
He was fantastic.
I saw Ash Reagan yesterday too.
Awesome.
Yeah. We went down memory lane.
Yeah, I'll bet you did. Cinema. So think about it. We've had, Mo Udall ran for president. Barry Goldwater ran for president. Mark Kelly was shortlisted for vice president. I mean, these are meaningful things for this state. I think as a state, we should have some pride in the fact that we've elected people who are actually pretty important.
Yeah, and they've made a difference, and all of them, agree or disagree with some of their politics, have really tried to better the state.
Yeah.
And so we can take pride in that.
And
Republicans or Democrats.
You look at
liberals or conservatives.
The current delegation, we're down one because of Raul Grijalva's death. But even
Adelita will be there soon.
Yeah, right. That's true. It's
just a matter of time.
But we run the gamut. Because the new member of Congress in Ruben Gallego's seat, Yasmin Ansari.
Yeah,
she's a young woman.
She went down to El Salvador.
Oh, did she?
Yes, she is.
Well, that works for her district. But she could be there for decades.
For some time.
Decades, if she wants. I think she's in her 30s.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and then we have District 5 opening up with Andy running for governor.
Yeah.
And Jay Feely announced this week.
That's right. Jay Feely, former kicker for the Cardinals and others. You've got Travis Grantham. Who else is running?
Those are the only two that I know.
Right.
Yeah. Jay Feely announced this week? I got a bunch of emails.
Yeah.
So best of luck to them.
Look, Arizona is going to be a hotbed of activity for 2026. We've got all our constitutional offices coming up. We've got, obviously, the governor's race is going to be the big one. And, potentially some definitely competitive primary in the Grijalva seat coming up in a special, and then competitive primary in Biggs seat.
Although, that'll stay in Republican hands.
Yeah. Well, but Grijalva seat's going to stay.
We got a lot of people announcing for different positions that we know.
Yeah. Well, that's
AGs and treasurers, and
right.
both on D and R's that are friends of ours.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can have them on the show.
Yeah. Well, there'll be plenty, but there's plenty of time.
There's plenty to do.
Plenty of time.
Plenty to do.
So just come back. And again, thank you to our listeners.
Please like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
Wherever you listen to podcasts.
And we really are humbled.
Yeah, we appreciate your viewership, your listenership. And thank you for trying for us to answer the question, where is Mark Kelly? Because we finally found him.
Well, and one of our sponsors, AFP Arizona,
yes,
is asking that question. Where's Mark Kelly on the tax bill?
Yes. Where will he be?
Where will he be?
Where will Ruben be?
Where will Ruben be?
Because the dynamics that you spoke about earlier, in terms of the state, moving more right, they've got to take that into consideration.
That will have impact. Kelly's up before Ruben, so that has it's more timely for him. But absolutely, this extension of the tax cut, the Trump tax cuts, probably the most important piece of legislation in the Congress at this point.
Oh, easily.
And
they seem confident
AFP
that in May they're going to deal with it.
Yeah, AFP is at the forefront of pushing that, and good for them for doing that. And one thing I know is if you don't vote for the tax cut, AFP is going to hold those folks accountable.
Well,
there's going to be some price for that.
Like I said, in what I said in our podcast the other day, there's two things where how you lose your job in Washington, D.C. If you vote to cut spending or if you vote to increase taxes.
Well, but hopefully we can fix the cut spending part and actually cut spending.
I'm really hoping that they come out with a budget that is reflective of the 2019 baseline. And I think they can do that. Whether they have the political will or not, we'll see.
Yep. We'll see.
We certainly see departments, trying to reach that 15% attrition rate.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So that helps. Both senators yesterday talked about cutting spending all of a sudden. All of a sudden they want to be spending cutters, which is hilarious.
Really?
Yeah, after, how many trillions of dollars they voted for in additional spending.
When has Mark Kelly ever voted for a spending cut?
Yeah, that we need to cut spending, he said.
All right.
And everybody was laughing. I'm like, well, you need to eliminate
actually
departments.
Do it, right?
Yeah, and vote for it.
Yeah.
Get behind Doge.
Exactly.
That's not going to happen.
Well, plenty of time.
Plenty of time. Plenty of time. Thank you for listening so much.
Thanks,
God
everybody.
bless you.
Take care.
Bye.